Would you stand up to a dictator in your own country? In Panama, a group of soldiers tried to do just that in 1989, and what happened next is still remembered with horror. I'm Fish, and today we're going to look at the last attempted coup against General Manuel Antonio Noriega, also known as the Albrook Massacre. During the 1980s, Panama lived under the control of the dictator Manuel Antonio Noriega, better known as
Noriega, hey! Pineapple face, hey! That's what they called him.
Tensions with the United States were growing stronger. Drug trafficking accusations, economic sanctions, and internal protests weakened the regime. In 1988, a coup d'etat had already been attempted, but it had failed. One of the military officers who helped Noriega repel that coup was Major Moises Giroldi. Paradoxically, it would be him who, a year later, would lead the new coup against the dictator. 2 days before the coup, Giroldi's wife, Adela Bonilla, contacted the U.S. Southern Command to warn that the action was imminent. They even went as far as meeting with CIA agents. Giroldi asked them for something specific: protection for his family and for U.S. troops to block key roads to prevent reinforcements from forces loyal to Noriega. Washington, however, mistrusted him and decided not to get fully involved. On October 3rd, 1989, shortly before 8 in the morning, Giroldi and a group of officers stormed the Defense Forces headquarters in El Chirriem. They achieved what, until then, seemed impossible.
Because despite General Noriega barricading himself in his office, his armored office, he is finally persuaded to come out and is arrested.
For a few hours, Noriega was in their power, but the rebels made a fatal mistake. They couldn't decide whether or not to hand him over to the Americans. That indecision gave Noriega himself time to call for help. Even though U.S. troops blocked the roads, reinforcements loyal to Noriega used Tocumen Airport to move by air. In a matter of hours, the counterattack crushed the rebellion and the coup plotters surrendered. The rebels were taken to the hangars at Albrook Air Force Base. Let's see, how do I explain this part without YouTube getting angry? There, they were subjected to harsh interrogations with violence, and let's just say none of the main officers returned alive. 8 of them died in the hangars. Giroldi and a sergeant were unalived at the Tinajitas barracks. Another lost his life in prison after being, let's just say, after having a very harsh interrogation. In total, 11 military personnel were eliminated, and 74 officers were sent to Coiba prison. The families of the deceased also suffered repression. There were raids, looting, and threats of eviction. The brutality with which the Noriega regime reacted to this event marked the country forever, and to this day, it is remembered as the Albrook Massacre. Before moving on, remember that for every like you give me, it's a punch for that pineapple face. Adela Bonilla blamed the failure of the coup on the betrayal of an officer who switched to Noriega's side at the last moment. In the United States, the failure sparked an intense debate. Some senators accused the George Bush administration of not having done enough to support the uprising. Washington, for its part, argued that it didn't trust Giroldi or his true intentions. The failed coup had a decisive effect. It convinced the Pentagon that Noriega could not be removed with internal military forces. Only one option remained: direct intervention.
This is going to have a tragic end because either we solve the problem or they're going to come and solve it for us, and they came to solve it for us on December 20th.
2 months later, on December 20th, 1989, the United States invaded Panama in what was called Operation Just Cause, which ended up removing Noriega from power. Years later, Panamanian courts convicted Noriega and others responsible for the Albrook Massacre.
That image that was sold of the corrupt, drug-trafficking, criminal soldier, which generalized all members of the Defense Forces, was wrong. There was a leadership. There was a top brass, definitely, of which we are not proud. But the base of the institution, the troops, the middle-ranking officers, were people committed, people with shame, people concerned about what was happening in the country and who wanted to do something.
This was the last attempt to overthrow Noriega from within, a sign of the discontent of those who could no longer stand the dictatorship. but also of the brutality with which the regime defended itself. It was, without a doubt, the bloody prelude to the US invasion, which would mark the end of an entire era in Panama. Do you think the coup would have been successful if the United States had supported it? Would you have supported Giraldi or Noriega? Give me your answer down here in the comments section. I'm Fish, and you can tell me what other historical event you'd like to see in our next video. In the meantime, I invite you to watch some of the videos that will be appearing on your screen.